Hey guys, John Paulamy here, Actionable Intelligence. Today is another in our series of interviews. And in today's interview, we will be talking with an individual that shares my views, I think, on investing in Uzbekistan. And he took a slightly different path than I did. As listeners know, I approached it via using a fund, the Uzbekistan Fund offered by Asia, by AFC, just because I have friends there and principals that I knew and trusted. But this particular individual we're going to introduce has invested there, and we wanted to talk with him about his experience doing it, why he wanted to do that, why he became interested in this place, what he sees there, and then the whole mechanism of that he used to do it, and what he experienced, if there was any hardships, if it was easy, and then a few other questions. So I want to bring on Andreas, and if you would just give us a short introduction and maybe talk a little bit about what your experience, or why you want to invest in Uzbekistan.
Yeah, thanks, John. Hi, this is Andreas, and yeah, thanks for inviting me. I've watched a lot of your content, and yes, we share the same views. And in terms of the investing, the different sectors and industries, and a bit of my background. So I'm 41 years old. I'm living in Germany, and in my day job, basically, my work is as an account executive in the tech industry. And for the last 5 years, I've really developed and furthered my investment skills. And the interesting part is that since the last 2 years, I've heavily rotated my portfolio into more a commodities type portfolio. So before I was a typical tech investor because I also work in that industry. But since the last couple of years, I rotated into raw materials like lithium, graphite, copper, energy stocks that you also like in terms of like oil, coal. And my biggest bull case or bull position is at the moment uranium. So I'm really looking forward to what happens there in the next couple of years. And the difference is to your approach that are also a big portion of my portfolio is in biotech as well. And I focus more mainly on microcaps, and my approach is in some of the areas also the picks and shovels approach, I would say. And the reason why I became interested in Uzbekistan is because for a while now I had thought about investing in frontier markets, and I have some investment in Africa, for example, through a company that is listed on a London stock exchange. It's called the Helios Towers. So they build they have these cell towers. So it's similar to American Tower, a REIT from the US, but this is basically they have the sub-Saharan market. And I heard more and more also about Uzbekistan from the different people or blogs that I read. So, for example, Sven Lawrence from Undervalued Shares, or Maurice from The Wandering Investor. So Maurice did a video where he interviewed the person who you mentioned who was running the AFC fund. And also I heard you mention Uzbekistan. And then finally, what really got me interested and got me moving is I saw John Quakes on Twitter. I follow him. I mean, you will know him, of course. He's really known and FinTwit around every.
Hello? Did we lose you?
So they're um, they're part of like the top 10 largest uranium and gold producers in the world. And this really piqued my interest because, as you know, I'm bullish uranium. And because of uranium, I know a lot about Kazakhstan. And I thought to myself, okay, this could be a really great opportunity because I heard and read a lot about when in countries where the markets go from not being private, so government run, to go being privatized, that there's a great opportunity. And also, as this IPO will most likely be 2023, I thought it's even better opportunity because will be right in the bull market of uranium. So, and that's also why I decided to go for a brokerage account instead of going to a fund, because I wanted to basically decide on which stocks I would pick. And the last point is that from the interviews that I saw, that in Uzbekistan the stock market is really highly undervalued. So it's the complete opposite to, if you look at, for example, the Nasdaq in the US, or even all the tech names in the US. So the funny things, or the ironic thing is, I thought to myself, is that people perceive investing in frontier markets as risky, but actually at the moment I think it's even, from the risk reward, it's safer than US tech, because you have such in tech such downward risk. And in Uzbekistan, I think the whole stock market is, the market capitalization is around 6 billion US dollars. So it's really the start of I think a great opportunity.
No, I think you've hit all the major points exactly. I mean, I'm almost to the point where I've really upsized my position just because I'm using the country as a proxy and the whole commodity, uh, you know, bull market thesis. So you're exactly right. You touched on the mining, especially around gold and uranium. I think people don't really understand that Uzbekistan is a significant producer of both of those commodities. In addition to the modernization that's going on in a lot of their agricultural areas, along with the fact that they are have been historically and will continue to be a central transit point for the reformation of the Silk Road, if you will. So they're kind of in a good position right now with the right policies, as you stated, going in the right direction. And to put the cherry on top, basically they have a very positive demographics also. The population is very young. The one thing people don't understand or may not realize about Uzbekistan, that even during Soviet times, the Soviet Union spent a considerable amount of money developing the country. It's one of the few, well, it's the only republic in the stands that has a significant metro system that's comparable to what you would see in Moscow or Kiev, in their capital, Tashkent. So it's not some backward place that's fully not without potential. So yeah. So I think, so I guess, as you stated, you wanted to invest there. You didn't want to go the fund route. You wanted to control your own destiny in picking stocks. So how did you get involved with a brokerage firm? How did that process go? How did you identify a firm? And then how did that process of setting up the account go?
Yeah, so the process was straightforward and easy. So the since wandering investor had on his blog, basically he said I could reach out, or people could reach out to him. He could give them intros. So I reached out to him, and he recommended to me the Brokerage Portfolio Investments LLC, and he has been working with them since 2019. So I thought to myself, okay, let's try it out. And then basically I emailed the owner of this company. His name is Munir, and yeah, he very quickly replied and put me in contact with one of his specialists. And should I go into what happens then in terms of setting up the account?
Yeah, if you don't mind. I mean, you don't have to,
Yeah, cool.
get too in depth, but just kind of how the process went and how, if you felt it was fairly easy or whatever. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah, it was easy. So they ask you for basic information that I think you would need in any country anyway to open an account. So like identification, like what is your bank number, tax ID, the living address, telephone number. And then basically what you schedule is a Zoom meeting, so a Zoom video meeting where the contract is signed. So they need this also for for not the not restriction for the what's the word, like similar like the SEC, regulatory software. They need it for
Mm,
regulatory reasons, so they have to basically um, shoot a video of you signing the contract because you're not there in person, and
mhm,
then you have to send basically the original copy to them. And the minimum deposit is 10,000 US dollars. And once you send this, basically or they set up the account, and once you send the first deposit, you can start trading. And the fees are also very low, so it's 1.5% for buy order and 1.51% for sell order. There are no fees for basically running the account otherwise, and there's a small fee for the dividends because there's a certain thing they have to do there. But all in all, it's similar to setting up an online broker account. And the interesting thing is the currency rate. So $1 is 10,605 Uzbek Zoom. So for example, the $10,000 is 109 million. So in Uzbekistan, I'm a multimillionaire. So yeah,
yeah, everything's relative.
yes.
Um, so what was the time frame from when you initiated?
I have to quickly open the door, but I'm back in a second.
Okay, no problem.
Right, I'm back.
Yeah, no problem. So what was the time from when you initiated the contact to with the brokerage firm in Uzbekistan, and then when you were set up and ready to go? How long did it take?
So it was, let's say you can, if it goes fast, it could be like 2 weeks. The thing that took longer for me, and this is one of the, when you asked me before, what were the challenges? So I underestimated how long it would take to send the contract via regular mail to there. And so it took like maybe 3 weeks or 4 weeks. I don't remember exactly, but it took longer than I expected to have everything running. So I would recommend, if someone wants to set it up, I would send the contract via a courier service, something like FedEx or UPS, something
Hmm.
like that. But other than that, it was really quick.
What about language? I mean, are you able to communicate with the professionals there without any restrictions? I mean, what languages used? Presume English is a business language. I
Yes.
don't know.
Yeah, so for the communication with the brokerage account manager or specialist, it's all in English, so that's all fine. The thing is that is good for when you, for example, when we go into the part where I talk about how research. So the when you the thing that of course could be challenging is when you read the stuff there, because they have, it's different letters, and then you, but the cool thing is nowadays Google Translate is very good. So in Google Chrome you can set that for example, when there's a certain language, that it always is translated into your language. So that makes it easy to, for example, when you're on the website of the Tashkent Stock Exchange, you will see most of the stuff in English, for example, or German or whatever language.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've done. I mean, that was kind of my next question. So now that you're going to just do individual stock picking on your own, I mean, do you do your own research? Does the brokerage offer some research? What type of research are you using, or how are you getting information on these companies?
Yeah, so my approach there is the following. So one thing to consider is that this broker is really, it's not like we know in the Western world where you just have an online broker where it's very anonymous. So they really support you and really helpful. So they're really forthcoming and really, so you can ask them, for example, questions and they will help you. So it's basically like I would imagine brokers were in the past in the Western world, where you would call them and can ask them questions. Nevertheless, of course, the portal itself, you have an online portal where you can do your orders yourself. And so he gave me some support and some information. For example, he shared a website with me where there's a small index called EQRE Blue. So this is the index of the most liquid stocks in Uzbekistan. He also shared a site with me which has financial statements, and he shared, of course, a site of the Tashkent Republic Stock Exchange. So what my approach was basically, usually when I in the Western world, when I look for companies, usually I look for small, so like microcap stocks, which are very illiquid, because I want to be there before the institutional money is there. So people who, for example, follow Ian Castle know what I talk about. So he's in front of Microcap Club and has a similar approach. But in these frontier markets, since the market cap of the whole stock exchange is so small, so like roughly like 6 billion, you don't really have to go through all these hoops. So what I did is that I went for more for the liquid stocks and also for simple businesses, because the business that, because the company is as you mentioned, they're privatizing, they're really a growing economy, and you can really, with simple businesses, and I can give some examples, you will have exciting growth rates, which usually in the US only get with really risky businesses or with tech. And so what I did is I looked at the this EQRE index, and I looked for the stocks which are really liquid. And I looked also in the Tashkent Stock Exchange. You can see the type of deals that are done and the volume in a dollar amount. And I saw, for example, that in the construction sector, there was the most activity. So, for example, I looked at stocks in the construction sector, and the one that I overweighted, for example, is a company called JSC Quartz. So it's like a glass factory. This was the #1 traded stock. So they produce glass jars, bottle, polished glass, and also for the automotive industry. And they basically have more than 90% of the market. But the interesting part is their market cap is only 40 million US dollars.
Wow.
So there it's very easy for them to grow.
Exactly. One other question I had just on the mechanics. So when you want to enter a trade, do they have an online portal, or do you have to, a lot of frontier markets I deal in, I have to like email my broker directly. We just email back and forth or message back and forth, and then they produce a ticket when it's done. How do you execute the trades there? I mean, is it a portal they have set up like a regular firm, or do you just have to kind of go back and forth and they issue a receipt when you complete the trade?
Yeah, they have a online portal, so it's like you would be used to in what you know.
I think I lost you again. Hello?
Your self-service, and basically it's also similar that I think in the US you have this 2-day rule where you, until the order is settled, they have this there as well. So the order is executed, and then it is settled after 2 days.
All right, interesting. So you feel good about the process, you feel good about what's going on there. Do you intend to make a visit at some point and check out things on the ground yourself, or do you plan maybe to increase your holdings over time as you become more comfortable? What's your ultimate goal? I'm looking at a 10-year time frame myself. That's how I'm approaching this. But assuming they continue to perform and do the privatizations and continue to liberalize. But that's my plan. What's your kind of ultimate exit strategy on this?
Yeah, so you're right. So I will average into my positions, and so the plan is at the moment that the money that I make, for example, in the US, that I will move it over to frontier markets and emerging markets because of the macro thesis of what I see with all the money printing by the Fed and everything like that. So but of course, I don't want to do it like tomorrow. I will do it over time, over many years.
Hmm.
And I will maybe also visit. So I don't have to really visit there to feel safe. I mean, because the businesses are it's not like when you, for example, invest in what you see now. For example, last week happened in the US, where you invest in these China companies that have tech and where you don't understand it. Here it's more straightforward with these industrial companies with commodities. But I will out of another reason maybe visit there together with my girlfriend to really see the country, because I saw some pictures and it really looks nice. So, and then maybe I will also do some business there. But overall, my plan is to increase my positions there. And also, what I read also an article about, for example, Iraq, and so I will also go into more frontier markets um, over time, because there the opportunity in these frontier markets I see is very, very compelling.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, that's part of my thesis is once I figured this thing out, it took me many years. I started realizing that the most successful investors basically buy or they get involved in undervalued uh, investments and they sell overvalued investments. And I think that your kind of thinking is not as prevalent in the US or even in Europe. A lot of people just kind of think about their home country. And it's so, this is why I wanted to have you on because it's so easy to do these things now to take advantage of these places that are, I mean, Uzbekistan, so, I mean, undervalued doesn't describe it. It's substantially undervalued. It's like once in a lifetime opportunity undervalued in my view. So um, I think that that's an interesting component that a lot of people have fear or they haven't done it before. And I think, you know, you sharing your experience, it's not really that hard. And I believe that people should open up their um, reference point to the entire world with the communications we have and the ability to, you know, do business online. It's not even hard anymore.
Yeah, especially for when I didn't know this before, but when I was more active on Twitter and had contact with more US investors, I figured out that a lot of the US investors cannot even invest in Europe. So I think this is really a disadvantage. So everybody should really look into getting these brokerage accounts where you can invest internationally. Because even, for example, if you talk about something like lithium, there you have the interesting companies are, for example, in Australia. So, and also other commodities, you have to be international, or yeah,
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
uranium, for example. My uranium investments are, I always buy on the home exchanges of these companies, because I'm not really a big fan of the OTC in the US.
Yeah, not a lot of liquidity there. You're exactly right. That's one thing I try to coach up people in my newsletter. And when they ask me, I have a lot of people that are just beginning investing or speculating. I say always try to get a brokerage firm that allows you to trade in the home market just because of the liquidity. You'll get ripped off. And it's easy to get into the positions in the OTC over the counter here, but it's hard to get out of them without taking a substantial hit to your to the price. That's
Mm.
exactly right. Um, so we've kind of covered Uzbekistan and your experience there. I know that you have do some writing. You are on Twitter. You have a also a blog or website where you talk about some of the things that you are uh, investing in or interested in. I was wondering if you wanted to share that and talk a little bit about that. Maybe a little bit about your biotech experience too. That'd be kind of interesting. I think I was kind of curious about that when you mentioned it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. So, The reason that I started to write down my investment thesis is basically since last year or the 1.5 years now, I started to take investing more serious. And also I had, for example, many years ago, I had entered positions, but then I didn't write down my thesis. I didn't know why I entered after a while. And then you get nervous when the stock goes down, and then you maybe sell it when it's a bit up again. For example, I had this Nvidia where in the Bitcoin craze in 2018, I think, or 17. But I didn't have it because of Bitcoin. I had it because of I saw a presentation around AI and everything like that. But then it went down, and I didn't know what to do, and then I sold it. And now, for example, look where it is. So it would have been a multi-bagger for me. So that's why I started like maybe 1.5 years ago to really write down my thoughts. And at first I shared them when I became more active on Twitter. I shared them on Twitter, but on Twitter, it's not really good you cannot do long form content very well. So what I did is I thought about, okay, I want to start my own blog where I can share basically research. So what I mean by research is that I write down in an article, my investment thesis around this stock. So this is not basically that I would say, okay, people have to buy this stock. It's more, this is the research that I have done. And if you're also into this industry, this could be interesting for you. So it could be one of the piece of the puzzle to fill your thesis. So this is the thinking behind it. And at the moment, it's more a hobby for me, but maybe later it will become something more. And so the website is called shovelstocks.com. So shovel-stocks.com. And my Twitter handle is Amorin and at Amorin Andreas. So AMORIN AMORINANDRES. And so I cover mostly, as mentioned, so I cover raw materials, like for example, like something like lithium, graphite, copper. So all of these raw materials. And the reason I called it shovel stocks is basically twofold. So one of the thinking was that I like the picks and shovels approach. So for example, you could invest in electric vehicles, you could invest in Tesla or NIO or something like that, but you will never be sure which one will win out. But one thing is certain: they all need lithium. And in lithium, for example, you also have this supply demand deficit story, a bit similar to uranium. So and the other thing is with shovel, of course, you can also picture something like in mining, something related to mining. The other topics I cover are uranium, as mentioned, and then also the thing that sets me apart from your content is that I also cover biotech. And this is because one of the main reasons is that because, so I was always interested in that, but also last year I researched it more and more, and I saw opportunities there, and I saw also that the a lot of the interesting things that a lot of the biotech companies were founded in like around the 2000 area, and they were similar to the .coms, that it was all hope and dreams, but really the technology was not there to really make this a reality. But now fast forward, we have different technologies like AI and other things that really make this a reality. And we see now with mRNA and CRISPR and all these technologies that this is becoming a reality and really a commercial reality. And the interesting thing about biotech is that it's similar to what I found out, similar to mining or development company stocks and exploration stocks, because one, you have this huge volatility, because when they have nothing on the market, they are basically traded on narrative. And for example, if one of the trial results is not perceived as good, then they could fall like 20-30%. But if you did the research, you can use this to your advantage and then average down into the position. And then if they also, the gains up could be massive. So you can have 10 baggers, 20 baggers, even more in this sector. And the last part is they are also oftentimes micro caps, or at least small caps. For example, one company I follow is they have really compelling data in terms of curing Parkinson's, and their market cap is like $60 million, and they have high insider ownership. So you can find these gems similar to you can find those gems in uranium.
Interesting. I'm picking up after talking to you. You're kind of that. I think you understand also. I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but I heard you mention Ian Castle. I think you kind
Yes.
of realize the same thing, that in order for to be an individual investor to be successful, our competitive advantage is not going to be, our opinion on Apple or something like that. It's going to be in these underfollowed, smaller cap stocks where institutions really can't play because it doesn't move the needle for their portfolio, and they have maybe less coverage by analysts. And I think that even spills over to these frontier markets. There's absolutely no coverage, no interest, and the market caps are so small currently, they won't be forever, but currently, that the big money really can't move there. So I think that you're exactly right. That's where the advantages are, and it seems like you've picked up on that vibe also.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's the last 2 years. I think I learned a lot about these topics, and yeah, it's interesting how a lot of the investors chase basically these. They don't calculate that, for example, if a company is already 600 billion, I mean, it could double, but it would then be 1.2 trillion. So the yeah,
Yeah, it's easy it's possible. It's not easy, but it's possible for something to go from 40 million in market cap to 400 million market cap, and it's not even still a drop in the bucket. So
yes.
that's exactly right. All right. Well, I mean, is there anything else that we should talk about in Uzbekistan, or anything else that we might have missed that you might that I might have not asked, or you think might be valuable?
I think what is interesting is that the companies there are, it's a lot of commodities based company, and there's one of which I have also in my portfolio is the commodities exchange there.
Yes.
So
Yep.
the companies UZEX, so the tickers URTS. And for example, they 1 year they paid like 50% dividend, or I think 50% of earnings. I think is spent, and basically because they are the biggest commodities trading platform in Central Asia. So you have these huge opportunities there, and the market cap is only 118 million. So there's a lot of opportunities in Uzbekistan.
Yeah, and I think people should realize that we've seen in the past. People can go back and look at, like, I encourage people to read like Jim Rogers' books when he rode his motorcycle through across the world. I'm going back 25, 30 years now, or when he traveled around to countries in Southeast Asia that were in the same spot maybe 30, 40 years ago, where they were just beginning their growth trend. And you can see the amount of wealth created in places like Singapore, Malaysia, Vietnam, all these places, Indonesia now. And then you have places like in Central Asia, which has kind of been ignored by a lot of investors. So I think Uzbekistan takes the crown because it has the most, shall I say, progressive government that's trying to liberalize. I mean, Kazakhstan also has a very large resource endowment, but I think that the government's not as progressive there. And then you have some basket cases like Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan, but hopefully they will get their act together also. But it's definitely an interesting place, and it has in history and will continue to play a very strategic role in world trade. And I think that especially with China, emergence of the Belt and Road Initiative and these other things. And I still feel that, Uzbekistan has a pretty good ties still to Russia, and that has a good, it's helpful also. One other question I wanted to ask you. When you talk to the people in Uzbekistan at the brokerage firm or other people, Did they give you a sense that they're seeing more and more individual investors come into the country or more money come in? Did they have any perspective on that, or did you have a conversation about that?
Yeah, they mentioned that it's picking up, but it's not like so it's still very under the radar. So they have interest by international investors, but it's not like they open like 50 accounts every day. So
Okay.
they see the interest, and but they are also very happy if you, for example, when I mentioned to the one specialist, I talked to him about Navoy mining, and he laughed, and he was happy that I know this. So they are very happy that international people come to their country and want to invest. So it's very friendly atmosphere talking with them.
Interesting. Great. All right. Well, I think that I don't want to take up too much of your time. It's getting late there, and I appreciate you coming on and sharing your experience. I will put links to your Twitter and to your website so people can visit if they would like. And we certainly appreciate you coming on and sharing your experience. I think people will find it educational, and they will see that it's not that hard or difficult to expand their horizons and put money to work in these places that have excellent opportunity.
Great. Yeah. Thank you very much, John.
All right. Thank you.